And thank you for joining us here on PM Express. And the spring meetings just ended in Washington, D.C., but we are beginning to see what the pursuit of the IMF deal could do to our economy, which is that there are many conditionalities. Of course, the IMF says, don't call it conditionalities. It's because this time it is a case of the country itself agreeing its own program and the IMF agrees to it. But we know that that is not exactly what the picture is, because many will tell you that the ECG collections that has been happening is an IMF prerequisite. The three bills that have been passed is an IMF prerequisite. The revenue measure that have been passed is an IMF prerequisite. There are a few other things happening that you may have noticed or not. The tariffs is an IMF prerequisite. And they say we've met all this, but some of these key prerequisites, prior actions, it's causing a bit of pain. And we're going to look at two of them in particular. Government is insisting still that the pension funds come on board for some form of restructuring. That is a dangerous area, but government is still pursuing that because it's in that letter that was written to the trustees of the pension funds, government stated it very clearly that this alternative options you're exploring is in keeping with their pursuit of an IMF program. And so clearly, that is definitely part of the deal to get an IMF program, right? And that is causing a lot of havoc. Tonight, we've heard from TUC and we've heard from UTAC. UTAC says, when you touch our pensions, you're touching the blood of workers. And as for that, you've shown that you can't govern. We'll make it impossible for you to govern. That's according to the UTAG General Secretary at University of Ghana. That's strong words. Tonight we'll hear from the TUC as well. But let's go into some of the key things that we know so far. Now, as far as UTAG is concerned, they definitely reject this very strongly. The lecturers will further, this will impoverish them. And they've made the point that as for this, they are ready to shut down the entire government if government dares go ahead with a plan to restructure the bonds. Okay, so what did government proposing to do as far as this is concerned? And they've written to the pension funds, the trustees of the pension funds, asking them to participate in another form of restructuring. So what will it entail? Exchanging the treasury bonds, the ESLA bonds, and the Dachi bonds. That's what they are proposing to the trustees of the pension funds. They'll give them new bonds that will be liquid with an average maturity of around 4 to 5 years. That's what they're proposing. But in 2023 and 2024, that coupon will earn, they'll give them a coupon of 5% in 2023 and 2024. And government, however, insists that this arrangement will give them a similar average coupon, which is currently around 18.5%. And so in effect, government's argument is that in the long term, you won't lose anything. It will preserve the net present value of the current bond holdings. That is what government is presenting to the pension funds. Remember, this, for all intents and purposes, it is restructuring of the pension funds. That's what it is. You are proposing to give them something. You are exchanging what they already hold. It's another debt exchange program. It's a debt exchange program, right? You are giving them new bonds in exchange for what they already have with different terms. It's an exchange. It's a debt exchange program, but with the pension funds in particular. And the finance minister has explained, but they are targeting the pension funds in a different kind of vehicle, which is what is causing all the controversy. Then the finance minister says there's no second round of DDEP with the pension funds. But how would you call this for intents and purposes? I mean, if they have bonds already that you're giving them something else in exchange, the technical jargons, using semantics there. But if you're touching it, I will submit that it sounds to me like it is a debt exchange program. But the finance minister says, well, it's not. We'll hear from the experts when they join us. We'll engage them for more, because that's what we need to do, trying to help understand what is about to happen. But the workers say they won't have anything to do with this. And we know if you go through the promises that have been made in the past, the finance ministry, the government have made many promises. Go back to as far as December. know her cast and the principle of bonds. The reality was a bit different. Just throughout, you see a bit of that also, because in 2014, February 2023, for example, coupons, payments, and maturing principals will be honored. Some payments not honored, we know. So as you go, government make promises and then the challenges. And that's why the pensioner bondholders will tell you they were given explicit written exemption. But ask them, they will tell you that the coupon that matured, they haven't been paid yet, right? That's clearly not an exemption. And it comes down to the government's ability to pay. If we don't have, we cannot give you. It's as simple as that. And if you look at the breakdown of the debt holdings, which we've talked about quite a lot on this particular program, the commercial banks hold a significant part of it, and they've been restructured already. Today, I was listening to the finance minister talk about the fact that the Financial Stability Fund, the stability fund that they proposed to help the banks, the first focus will be to deal with the solvency challenges with the banks. Many of the banks that participate, the government is admitting that some of them are facing solvency challenges, and so the Financial Stability Fund will deal with that, right? One of the key things, firms and institutions, foreign investors hold a kind of significant part of it. Pension funds, that's where the red is, and that's what I want to focus on. 10 billion, in excess of almost 11 billion cedis is what they're holding. Government want to get them to come on board, restructure it, offer them something different in exchange for what they already hold. That will ease the pressure on the system. The wording of that letter that was written to them is very interesting, and that government needs to restructure this 10.88 billion because of the financial constraints it's currently facing. It's in the document that was written to the pension fund. They want to restructure because of the financial constraints, but also because of the IMF program. So this is the red, big, controversial point that needs to be restructured here. 10.88 billion. Why is this important? Because if you look at the checklist, government had done almost everything else, right? Well, one of the things that they've done is a domestic debt restructuring, which is in green because it is completed. But that is why this question about the pension fund still is very interesting to look at. Because government says we're done with the restructuring of our domestic debt. So if that is complete, and IMF, if you listen to my colleague, Dojo Afe at the Washington, D.C. at the spring meetings, there's a consensus that Ghana, we've almost checked all the boxes. What is left to be checked is not really in our hands because we're looking for financing assurances from the Paris Club, the China, etc., right? So this part is done. So why do you need to offer the pension funds something else? That is one of the things that I quite don't sure I appreciate. I mean, but the document that was sent to the pension funds explain why the government still is facing financial constraints. Is an expression that was used in there, and also in keeping with the IMF program. Maybe that's the challenge. So the reality is, this here, government still needs to clean up a bit of stuff, and that's why cocoa bonds have been mentioned going forward as well, right? So we are not done yet. A lot of things still happening in this particular area, but there's a lot of positive news from the spring meetings. If we look at the outstanding bits with executive board approval, which now we're expecting that to happen in May. Everybody says is May. Disbursement of first tranche and the reviews and subsequent disbursement. In fact, today, the finance minister at the press conference at the Washington, D.C. made the point that the IMF and the Paris Club have given assurances now, the indications that they'll give the financial assurances needed in the next few weeks in the shortest possible time. In fact, is what the finance minister said, to quote him, which could be tomorrow or next week. So we are making progress there, but it's the domestic front that appears to be a lot of challenge. So the IMF itself has 4 points to consider in restructuring or tackling your debt situation. One is, if you want to restructure your debt, make sure it is deep enough. And that is the point here. It should be deep. This is according to the IMF's own word on this very important matter, right? It has to be deep. The question you need to ask yourself is, this restructuring that was done, government was aiming to restructure some 132 billion cedis. Do you know what they got? they got only 82.99 billion. So there's a significant gap. Question is, it's not deep enough. It's not meeting the IMF's own prescribed arrangement for restructuring. Because it's not deep enough, the government needs to do other things to make it deep. Second thing you need to do, it should be combined with fiscal consolidation or spending cuts. And that spending cuts question is what TUC and UTAC have said tonight, that if you want to touch our pension funds, we won't allow it because we have not shown that you've cut spending enough. So that's a key point that they've made. And then growth-inducing structural reforms are needed, which is some of the key challenges that government is now beginning to deal with in trying to restructuring the economy, particularly when it comes to revenue, focusing a bit more locally. Creditor confidence also must be increased. And that's why they need the assurances to get the IMF Executive Board approval. That will not only bring you cash, it will bring you policy credibility, and then it may improve your creditworthiness in the eyes of those who lend you money. So this is the problem. This is why all this is happening, because we need to bridge this gap. This gap is too huge. From 32 billion, you only got 82 billion. That gap must be bridged somewhat, and that's why the pension funds are being asked to come on board. And then you look at the external debt, as it stands now, 30.5 billion, which multilateral, we've talked about this a bit. Multilateral is made up of 8.8 billion, non-residential, bilateral, commercial creditors, all that is involved and needs to be dealt with. Now, 14.6 billion commercial debt creditors. It's not part of the big problem blocking us on the IMF. What appears to be the key issue is the financing assurances that we require. And as far as the finance minister is concerned, and everybody else George Afi has spoken to, and he's spoken to me quite extensively today, concerned, that shouldn't be an issue at all. So we're expecting this to be wrapped up in May, all things being equal. So this is the pension bondholders' plan to picket on the back of, and that's another whole conversation, on the back of government failing to pay the coupons that are still outstanding. Many bonds are still outstanding, and the pension bondholders say, but you exempted us. And so they are returning to picket on the 28th if government failed to pay all coupons and interest by that date. We're going to have that conversation with them right now. But I want to go first to the secretary with the pension trustees, Thomas Kwesi Esso. He's, of course, with the pension trustees, and joins us right now because I want to quickly get that thing out of the way. They are at the heart of this, and that letter that we've seen and circulated very widely was written specifically to the board of trustees of the pension fund, and he heads the corporate trustees. And so he joins us now. Thomas Esso, thank you very much for your time here on PM Express. Hello, Thomas. Please unmute for me, please, Thomas. Thomas, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fantastic.
Can you also hear me, Ivan?
So tell me, can you confirm receipt of this document that was drafted by the Finance Ministry to the Board of Trustees? Have you received it yet?
So good evening, Evans, and good evening to your viewers this evening. Yes, let me confirm that, yeah, we have received this document from the Ministry of Finance making proposal for an alternative bond for the pension funds. Yes, we have received that document.
Okay, and what are you doing about that document? Because in that document, a few things was proposed. There is an offer to restructure the funds, give you exchange. In other words, they're going to exchange what you already hold. And the offer is to give you 2023, 2024, 5% coupon. In the long term, the government says it's same average, returns. You get around some 18%. I'm sure you've seen the document in detail as you've confirmed receipt. How are you considering what has been put forward?
Thank you very much, Evans. Let me put it that, yes, this document has been received. And then we have also forwarded same to our members. And I believe that our members are also going through the technicalities, trying to use their bond holdings to compute whatever proposal that government have made in the document. So as an industry, we have arranged to have a meeting in the coming days to take a position on the proposal that government have made to us now. But as at now, I can confirm that as I'm expecting, our members are also looking at the figures, looking at the numbers, since they are the ones who do the real work, and then they also have the bond, and so they can demonstrate live what will be the impact of this proposal on their bonds, on their portfolios. So I can confirm that we have received it, and I'm hoping that when we meet in a few days' time, the industry will take a position on the proposal by government.
Okay. And when are you hoping to have that meeting?
We are hoping to have that meeting within this week, and we are sure that after the meeting, the industry will release a press statement to state our position on the alternative proposal by government.
Okay.
For
I mean, and just to clarify the document, so this is an offer to restructure the debt you're currently holding, the pension funds, your investments in government bonds. True?
Evans, I mean, there is one critical issue when debt exchange program is all over. And then that issue is always about when the debt exchange program is completed, then what happens to the funds.
We may be
Investors,
losing.
you are always looking at the risk and the return,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore you are always trying to gauge the two factors together to see that even if there should be any risk, you take the chance to minimize that risk in your portfolio. And therefore, we have identified that if the old bonds, we keep on holding the old bonds, I mean, there is a risk of liquidity,
Okay.
and there is a risk of trading those bonds on the secondary market, and that is an issue. And therefore, at a point in time, you will be concerned as a bondholder about some of these factors also. And so whether it is an exchange program, whether it is a proposed alternative offer for pension funds, like you said in your intro, these are all semantics. But the objective and the aim is to ensure that these bonds will continue, the bonds that our pension funds, pension schemes hold will continue to be liquid and will continue to be tradable for members at any point in time that they need that. And one of the objective also is that to ensure that pension funds or pension contributors do not lose anything on their contributions, even if it is a proposed alternative offer or even if it is a debt exchange program. So that is why I keep on saying that our members themselves are doing the real mathematics of the impact of this on their portfolio. And when we meet on the few days' time, we'll take a decision about what the position of the industry is going to be on the proposed alternative offer for pension funds.
Okay, and you make two very important points that in considering the proposal before you, your primary objectives are one, you want to remain liquid. Two, that you don't lose anything for your members. And that is, in essence, is what you're going to use to judge and evaluate the offer before you.
Yes, Evans, I think that you got it right. And then if rightfully, I also have a certain offer like this, if I'm evaluating that offer, I will also have certain objectives in my mind to ensure that as I evaluate that offer, I will also achieve my objective. And exactly that is objective that we will seek to achieve when we are evaluating this offer.
Okay, and very finally, before I let you off, one of your very important members, the labor unions, TUC, tonight we've seen UTAG also issue a statement. They've said categorically that they don't want to have anything to do with this. They're rejecting it outright. I mean, would you consider that when you sit to talk?
These are very difficult questions, Evans, because in any case, some of these institutions are also members of our pension fund schemes, and therefore, like it is always advised, or like it is always the fiduciary responsibility of the pension fund trustees. Any decisions that needs to be taken will need to go through the board of trustees to have their approval or otherwise. And therefore, I believe that whatever result that we will also arrive at, well, I believe the various board of trustees will also have a meeting to decide on their next line of action. The industry, like the Chamber of Corporate Trustees, can advise. Can advise what can be done, and we can also advise our members whatever decision it is to go through their board of trustees to get the relevant approval. Let me also say that it was right also that at the beginning, when the chamber thought that the proposal on the table was going to be very injurious to contributors, I think the chamber took that decision to reject the proposal outrightly.
Yeah.
And therefore, yes, for that one, we did it on behalf of the industry. But if we also arrive at any position that is contrary to that, we believe that we may also give the opportunity to the various board of trustees to also take a decision, because at the end of the day, they hold the fiduciary responsibility to the contributors of the funds, and they have to exercise that fiduciary responsibility.
Okay. Thank you very much, Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Corporate Trustees. Very important decision in the next few days. And we'll talk to Labour after this break. TUC will join us. We've heard already today UTAG issue very strongly worded statement. In fact, one of the things that was said is that when you tax pension funds, it is our blood, and that will make sure you can't govern because you have muscles and will flex them. We'll talk to TUC on this. And then the individual bondholders themselves will also join us. They also have their own concerns. Today, I've seen a letter from the Office of the President to the Individual Bondholders Forum. They had taken a lead in writing to the President, complaining that their coupons and interest are also not being paid. We're getting an update on that for you also here on PM Express. Please stay with us. Thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express and staying with us. We've just dealt with the pension trustees, the Chamber of Corporate Trustees, as we have been looking at the offer that they are considering. And as you said, as you heard them say, they're going to be considering it based on two key issues. Would it keep us liquid? And we lose in the long term? You're going to be hearing from them in the course of the week. And that's why we've been joined by the TUC's Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Joshua San joins us via Zoom. Also with me in the studio is Senor Hossi, who is a convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum. They had written to the President, on the back of which they were called into a meeting. That in itself has sparked some controversy, some disagreements. But subsequently, I've seen that the presidency has responded to their request. There have been further conversations around the outstanding coupons and interest. We'll get him to clarify where we are on that particular roadmap. And then the former boss of the Securities and Exchange Commission is also with me, Dr. Edu Ananiempi. He represents the Pensioner Bondholders Forum. They have concerns with the statement that the Finance Ministry issued on the back of that meeting. And he says no agreement was reached as far as a roadmap to paying those coupons and principals. He's also joining me. Thank you, Dr. Edu. I'm grateful that you could join me on PM Express. Let me go quickly to the TUC Secretary General on the question about the pension funds and the proposal before you. I don't know if you heard the Chamber of Corporate Trustees representing the pension funds generally. When we spoke to him, he was clear that they are considering this. They are going to consider it with two objectives in mind. They want to make sure that that offer before them makes them liquid, but also in the long term, they don't lose. And for them, it is about what it's in the best interest of their contributors. And I asked him, well, what do you make of the position of TUC? He says, well, we hear the TUC, but we need to consider it independently. Where does the TUC stand tonight on this proposal?
Thank you, Evans, and good evening to you and good evening to your cherished listeners. Evans, I think that I have to repeat myself this evening once again, that labor unions in Ghana knows only one thing. And what we know is that there has been an MOU signed by both parties between us and the government, represented by the Finance Ministry and the Minister for Employment and Labor Relations, that pensions funds has been exempted from
Oh, we have a connection challenge to him, unfortunately, and let's hope that he manages to re-establish connection. Let's see if we can fix that.
Exercise. That is all what we know. And you know that no one can write. That's all. Yeah, Ivan, can you hear me now?
I lost you, yes, but I think you are back now. Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Evans. What I'm trying to say is that we will not do anything contrary to the already existing MOU between us and the government represented by the Finance Ministry. Yes, we have signed an MOU, and we said in that MOU that Union or Labour will assist government in finding the best way of also raising some funds in this very exercise. Why we said that was that we have a lot of suggestions that we have made to the government. Anytime you make a suggestion to the government, aside the pensions, it's like that suggestion is a no-go area for the government. One, we said that the size of the government is so big and government must try to do everything to reduce the size of government to make some savings over there. Two, we said that there are some expenditure that goes waste in this very country and government must check that one also. We said that government functionaries are not sacrificing enough. Always workers sacrifice, but we don't see that from the government. We also said that if you're able to collect taxes effectively in this country, there will be no need for us to go to IMF for any bailout. It's like we have not looked inside our own country and checked what can we do to overcome these challenges. But because there's something that is easy way to go, like the workers' pensions, I think government is focusing too much on the government pensions. And Evans, I'm saying it this evening and saying it again, that Labour will not, I want to repeat, Labour will not do anything contrary to the agreement signed between us and the government on our pensions. Because already pensions is inadequate in this country, and it is our blood. If I tell you how much somebody gets when he goes on pension, it will marvel you. And we think that if we have not been able to do anything for our members, we must secure their future for them.
Yeah.
So that they will also be beneficiaries of their services that they have rendered to this very country.
But Mr. Ansah, I need to ask you though. I need to ask you though. The TUC, have you studied and evaluated the offer at all, or you don't even want to hear
it? You cannot say you don't want to hear, but I'm saying that whether it is an alternative or whatever, we can look at other alternatives, but not the pension funds. We also have our research department. We also have people, at least amongst us, who knows much about this debt exchange issues. And like I said this afternoon, Evans, we are going to meet. We have a meeting on Thursday.
Okay.
For us to make our decision and position known to the government and known to the whole country and the whole world. But beforehand, I want to insist and state categorically that if it is an attempt to touch our pensions, I don't think it's going to be. Consider other alternatives and the other proposals that we actually tabled during the conversation. Government must look there and ensure that we raise funds over there, but not to touch our pensions fund, because it's a no-go area for anybody.
I see. Let me bring in Dr. Duanalentu quickly. Doc, before I come to the individual bondholders and your issues, because of your expertise in this area, have you seen the proposal that has been made to the trustees?
Yes, I haven't studied it well, but I've seen the document.
Okay, and what do you make about the proposal? What do you make of what has been proposed?
Well, I think everybody, they have their concerns. They will have to look at it and see if it suits their particular needs. And so let's allow them to have that. My first reaction was to check where this thing was coming from, why. And if it's what the government has stated, the two of them have stated in the MOU that they will work towards getting the debt sustainability level. If that is coming from there, I was thinking that before this thing comes out, the two groups might have met and decided that this is what we can do based on the MOU that we have written. This is what we can do. before the letter comes out. This has been my difficulty since I started talking about this thing, that the negotiation, if two people have decided that we will go on to do something, I believe that before a document comes out, the two must have met and decided that this is the way we can go. So that if it comes out, it's just that you still have to write a letter to invite them. But that will be just a mere invitation because they know what is coming and they will accept that. But if these things come out and people say no, then it means you did not negotiate, you didn't talk to the two groups having met to get what you call a consensus at them. And that is the challenge I have about how we have managed these things. And I thought by this time we should have learned our lessons and not do things like that again. But we are still going on and doing that.
Yeah. I mean, Senor, so this is what is being proposed. The proposed offer entails exchanging your current holdings of Treasury bonds, ESLA bonds, Dache bonds for a menu of currently outstanding new bonds issued in February. And the February one is what we talked about. They call it, into bracket, new bonds 2027, to mature in 2027, 2028. In the 2023-2024, both instruments will pay 5% coupon in cash. The remainder will be capitalized into the nominal amount of two bonds in order to comply with the cash constraints and macro framework defined under the program with the IMF. The government explained that, one, this will achieve the same average maturity as pension funds' current holdings of old bonds in the region of between 4 to 5 years. Two, achieve a similar average coupon, currently of 18.5%. And then three, alleviating the cash constraint for the government over the first 2 years. What do you make of this, deal that has been proposed?
Maybe safe for ESLA. I think that it's technically, and I speak as a financial analyst on this matter. It's a good deal. No two ways about that. That it's technically or financially a good deal, but inherent may be political risk. But outside of that, it's a political risk that pension funds would always have to face because their liabilities are long term. They are not short term. I don't think that if government manages the consultation properly and the communication properly, it can't get some progress with the labor unions and the trustees. You could hear from the trustees. They see, because they are a bit more financially technical, and they realize that if you're actually looking at boosting the pensions returns of the union members, it is rather the deal you should take. Because you're actually going to have a par yield of about 21. And today we are running 19.02 par yields on the current papers. So you just need to walk or carry people along. I agree with Dr. Anani on that. The government's handling sometimes of this process has left too much to be desired. It's a matter of how to consult, how to communicate, and also how to show example. The TUC Deputy Secretary, has he spoken about anything financially analytical that this thing is making me lose money or we are going to lose? No. He hasn't said anything like that. The people have spent time to sit down with you to tell you that there are things you should also be doing. And you are not showing the way.
In fact, almost the same things you also told them.
But I mean, I've moved on. For tactical reasons, I have to move on and just solve my people's problem. But the TUC, this is labor. This is labor. They really run the wheels of our economy. Mm-hmm. All right, it's every one of us. They just don't represent only members. They also represent almost every worker indirectly. True. You understand? And we have to give them credit. I really appreciate the work they do. But I will urge them. Everybody should stay calm and let's let reason prevail. When you run the analysis, this deal is better for pension funds, technically. The political risk that is inherent is that we are deferring a lot of our maturity and bulk payments to a later date. You don't know how the next government may treat it.
Yeah.
That's the risk you think you have. But it's not a material risk for pension funds. Because pension funds have liabilities that are more long-termish. Those funds will still have to be reinvested. If you pay pension funds today, they are not going to fill their accounts with it. They have to reinvest them. So it's a win-win Do I go to the market, raise money, give you, and you bring it back to me? I may as well just reprofile my debt. But it is a matter of how you engage parties. So if you say touch my pensions, technically, government is not touching your pensions. It's actually adding to your pension. So government is actually giving pension funds a win there. But at the same time, government is also taking a win in that it's going to be able to manage its liquidity challenges.
In the first 2 years.
In the first 2
So
years.
it's delaying the inevitable.
But pension funds would have to grow. So you can practically keep all these principals there as long as you are getting the coupons. All the major drawdowns will also be covered by the new investments that are coming in. Because every day you are contributing. So technically, I have to be honest this. Government's deal is not a bad deal. It's actually a better deal for pensioners. It's not an ideal deal for individuals because the political risk can't be managed by individuals. But for pension funds, I think that they have to sit down. And the president should listen small on this kind of matter. There's a thing going on that Mr. President, we are not seeing you live by example. Your government is not being seen to also be sharing in the pain that Ghanaians are going through. One of our members called me and he was livid, angry. What is his problem? He has gone to sit down. He's flying to South Africa. He's sitting there in the plane. And here are junior members of SOEs sitting in business class to South Africa, less than 6 hours.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, they are
plenty of them
yeah.
sitting. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You owe people you can't pay. But you are sitting there and then you are flaunting, spending their money in their face. It's a bit insulting. These are petty things. If you pass a rule today, just like most corporates do, I'm telling you, go to the British Embassy. You will see what flight the staff there fly. Most of them fly economy going back to London. But Ghana people won't fly economy. Middle officers, everybody business class.
The old pensioners.
What the car? I mean, show something. The presidency should issue a directive.
Yeah.
This business class nonsense must stop. The truth of the matter, the most of the people sitting there, it went before government, they couldn't even spell business class. Then now you see that business, every day, that is it. You know, it's okay. You are going to America, plenty hours, okay. We are going somewhere, less than 6 hours. 6 hours or less. A directive. Everybody, including ministers, everybody has to fly economy. When people start seeing signs like this, everybody starts saying, okay, you're also trying something. Yeah. You are reducing the size of government. You are merging, look, in fact, you can't, the school we all went some. We don't need to go to Harvard. We don't need to go to Yale. We don't need to go to Stanford. Rather, we've realized that thing does not really create any special difference. This thing, it is honest hearts and common sense. And you don't need to do much. Just show example. I'm telling you, TUC, everybody will run to support the state.
Which is really what has
carry the country along, Mr. President. Carry the country along in these difficult times. Show by example. Ogbo!
You won't die. Let me bring in Ms. Ansah. So finally, your meeting is later this week. We've heard from the corporate trust. They're also meeting to take a decision. They manage your funds. If you speak to them, they are approaching this from a more technical angle. They haven't rejected it upfront yet. They want to look at it strictly. So it's very possible that those managing your funds will come to a technical conclusion that this is good for them. Well, what happens then? Please unmute for me. Please unmute for me. Yes. Sorry, I still can't hear you.
First, I didn't get Sonyo very well when he started at TUC. Does that mean that TUC doesn't have any knowledge about the debt structure that's going on?
No. Because let me explain. What he's saying is that what you had said, you were not even being technical. You just simply want government to heed to the proposals you put forward. And that if government had done that and carried you along, that would have helped the process in the communication and reaching you and sitting there in consultation. I hope that clarifies it.
Okay, let's move on. And what I want to show to the public that we also understand what is happening.
Yeah.
We also understand what is going on And if a person who has never been to school will also understand, as for money, 1 + 1 is equals to 2, and if you take 1 out of 1, it's 0. So as for money, it doesn't need any technical eye before you can see that somebody is using your money wrongly or correctly. He himself has admitted that government is not showing the way. How can the government meet with us for us to table alternatives? And that has become a no-go area. But you want us to sacrifice, and you want us to allow you to use our pension funds. The managers of our funds cannot do anything without us. They need to convince us, they need to explain issues to us, why they accept or they do not accept. If they think that technically they will accept, we actually give them the money to manage for us. So they must meet with us and convince us. They should carry us along to know that, yes, this is good for you. So let us carry on. Let us support the government in doing that. But anything short of that, I don't think it goes well for any labor union in this very country. Like Dr. Edu said, the two of us met somewhere some months ago. Today, you are sitting in America, you are sitting somewhere, you are seeing statement and so on and so forth that you have done A, B, C, D. I mean, it's not fair. This is what they did prior to the December meeting, and it brought a whole lot of hula baloo in this very country. They have done it again. You have met with the fund managers. Those of us who are the actual contributors of the fund, why didn't you route the letter through us? Why didn't you sit down with us to discuss the alternatives or whatever issue that we laid on the table? So you see that where the thing is coming from makes every worker think that the trust is not there. Because government will say this today, but will be doing a different thing altogether. But all the same, like I said, if government has something good for us, you think that government must invite us to the table, we sit down and we agree on something. But one party cannot just sit somewhere and take a decision and impose it on anybody in this very country. That one, there's no way that Labour is going to accept that. That's why I said that Thursday we are meeting. And at the end of the meeting, after considering whatever discussions that will come on board, you will come out with our position on the matter. Whether he has informed our fund managers or so on and so forth. Thursday you will decide and let the whole world knows our position on the issue. But before then, you want to caution that government shouldn't make an attempt in doing anything contrary to the agreement signed between both of us. They must show example by doing what we all suggested during the meeting. Anything short of that, you cannot live lavishly whilst you want us to live in poverty all the time. It is not going to work, Evans.
Okay, thank you very much, Joshua Mensah, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the TUC. Dr. Edouard Nentu, to your own concerns with the outstanding coupons and principals. I mean, since last week's meeting, and I know you issued a statement to say there was no agreement when it comes to the path towards repayment of the coupons and the principals outstanding. Have you had any other opportunity to sit with the ministry again to try and thrash out the issues that you disagreed on?
Well, we had a meeting this afternoon.
Okay.
But we just retreated at the position that we have waited for a long time. Now you have about 3 principals in arrears and then 18 coupons unpaid. The first one, the delays are between 1 and 57 days, and we can't allow that to happen. We've always reminded the minister to change and bring the payments to normalcy. Once you have exempted people, and that's why I was fighting, I told people that that's the meaning of issuer exemption. You tell us that you have no problem with us. So why would you be treating us like that? We have taken it, but now we can't take any longer. We give the government 2.5, 21st up to 21st to pay everything that will be due by that time. We have submitted a copy of the letter to the finance, to the speaker. Because of Friday's meeting, we decided to extend the period by another week to 28. And today we have confirmed to the Deputy Minister who chaired the function, Honorable Paul Kuma, that for us, we have finished what we have to discuss with the minister. We have given 28 of this month as the last day for government to pay all outstandings and bring the payments to normalcy. Failure, we would resume our picketing, so that we have just a simple matter.
Did the government agree to pay you before then?
They haven't said they will be able to pay us or not, but we are waiting. There's still time. Today is 17th, and we have about 10 or 11 days more.
Senor, were you in a meeting today?
Did he say Kojo Oponkruma?
No, I think he's Adjoa, the Deputy Finance Minister.
Okay, no, we're not in a meeting with Abena.
Abena.
It was Mr. Honorable Paul Kuma who chaired it.
No, that's not correct. Today's meeting was
today's meeting.
Yeah, it wasn't chaired by. It was chaired by Honorable Adams, the Minister of State for Finance.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry, I was on Zoom. I didn't see the faces. Okay. I thought it was Honorable Paul.
John Kuma. Okay. So it is Dr. Amin Adam.
Dr. Amin, it was a follow-up meeting on our meeting last week. Okay. At that meeting, we had a decision which we agreed to have a technical committee to
last week's
meeting to work out a pathway. So that was agreed by our side, the coalition then, which has the IBF and then the IBAC group. We all agreed. There was no dissent to it. But subsequently, of course, you saw that some of the members also indicated they wouldn't be. But for us as IBF, we stayed the course. You can't solve a problem in times like this by not being at the table. You have to shape your solutions in a sustainable fashion. I've been in the business of policy advocacy and its management. I know how to get things done right. You don't do it by just staying away. Government hasn't got the answer to everything. We are all part of government, so we must contribute towards the process of successful and functional governance. And that's what we did. So we decided to stay on. We had the invitations, and we extended it to our colleagues. And thankfully today, everybody was present. At the end of the meeting, the technical committee was officially re-inducted to commence work on Wednesday. And we have work that the mandate. No, that's not that work. That work one was to really look into our own grievances and then what our case was, and to also give us opportunity to understand what government's position is and see if we can come up with recommendations to deal with it. Exactly. This one actually comes up with solutions on a mechanism to address the payment
the outstanding
of not just outstanding. I mean, government's challenge is simple. We have liquidity crisis. And that's why they're trying to work around the pension funds thing to minimize the liquidity burden. We want to pay you. They restated their commitment to their obligation, to pay. And we must all remember, we are not the only people who are owing government right now who are not being paid. The Eurobond commercial international bondholders are also not being paid. And for them, there's even no clarity at all. That uncertainty doesn't work for anybody. Our mandate is to create certainty for our members. So we agreed that we'll be in that meeting. We'll be in that technical committee and come up with a structure. Recommendations were requested, a payment structure that works for everybody. And I would want us to look at it more thoroughly. And that's the thinking of everybody, that we come up with a systemic strategy that almost cures the problem across the profile of all the debts. So we are not looking at just solving the problem with what's outstanding today. We're also looking at what's likely going to also face challenges going forward. We are going to be facing liquidity challenges as a country for quite a while. That period, we can't fully put a nail on, but there should be a structure to deal with crisis as far as liquidity is concerned when bills are due. Our foremost recommendation is that government must immediately be paying the coupons cash, because that's not the bigger part of the burden. The big part of the burden is really the maturity, the principals. With the principals, we tabled a recommendation that is more skewed around swapping that for treasury bills as and when they fall due, and government hasn't got liquidity enough to pay it off. If government has that, fine. If not, Instead of us sitting down and be waiting on a best effort basis, we might as well look at an option to rather pick it up, pick treasury bills for that. That suggestion was welcome, was considered optimal at a meeting by government. We have a technical committee which is supposed to go and fine-tune the structure of how that will work, or also look at new ideas that may come on how to solve the problem in a way that government wins and we also win. At the end of the day, the matter has to be solved. And we are focused on trying to get people their money or a structure that creates liquidity for them. If today you got your cash for your coupons and tomorrow your maturity, you rather pick up treasury bills are actively being traded on the market. You'll be able to get that. No bond is being traded on the market actively. No bond, old, new, whatever. No bond is actively being traded because there's no certainty around the bond market. But the treasury bill market has relative stability and relative certainty. So that allows tradability. So people can start structuring and planning their lives. And this will give government some breather, 3 months, 6 months, maximum 12 months, depending on how we actually face it. And that should really bring a lot more.
When will the committee wrap up its work?
In a week, we should be done. And I have encouraged everybody every group to participate. We have a mandate from 300,000, members. We have to prosecute that mandate. We have to protect the investment interests of everybody, try and restore people's livelihoods. And that must be done with practical solutions and not just shouting and screaming. At this time, we have to be tactical about how we get things done so people get real meaning to their lives. People are not fooling us because I'm bald-headed. Neither are they fooling anybody because they are whoever. People are only fooling us because they want their money back. And that is what we have to deliver for them in a structured and sustainable manner. Because we can't keep fighting till that kingdom come.
Well, that offers some clarity. So, and that 1 week still within, because I know you also go with the 28th. You also gave it.
So, I mean, at the meeting last week, we said we want to give everybody a 2-week period to resolve the matter, the structure. So we have 1 week from Wednesday.
Okay.
All right, which will now fall maybe 2 days before by the 26th. By the 26th we will be done, and that'll be 2 days before the 28th. But the pension bondholders indicated they did not intend to participate. The Individual Bondholders Association said they would confer. Either way, work towards solving this problem will start on Wednesday, and the IBF will be on the table to work out a structure that becomes viable for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Donald, you have 30 seconds to wrap up. What do you say?
The problem with the self-exempted people structuring away with the government. But for those of us who were issuer exempted, we are not interested in that. And we are not part of the committee. We are not part of any arrangement whatsoever. We are ensuring that we are going to ensure that we get paid when it is due. And you can leave that to us. We fought for the issuer exemption, not for nothing.
There's no such
thing. We had 2 groups, so they can do. The issuer exemption is a better option, and we would demand that the government pays us as and when it is due, and we have all the means to do that.
Okay. I'm grateful, Dr. Donald. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll wait to see how this is resolved.